Hey there. Hello. How do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. Yes, it is. Now, here, it's 1985 in the story. It is. And I'm working at the Winter Garden Theater. Right. And you know what I'm doing at the Winter Garden Theater? You know what I'm doing? What am I doing? I'm selling cats, full color, show programs, t-shirts, sweatshirts, records, cassettes, books, and buttons. Yes. But I got a fortune cookie. And I thought I'd share it with you. And it goes like this. Don't be afraid to share your experiences with the world. Don't be afraid to share your experiences with the world. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing here on this podcast. It's the 80s, darling. Yes, it is. It's 1985, and I'm working at the Winter Garden Theater. And you know what I'm doing. And I've got a very interesting group of coworkers. And many of the coworkers that I have, in addition to my partner, my partner on the rotating partners, there's all these bartenders who work in the little bar back in the corner of the theater. Yes. And one of them is Randy, my Detroiter friend, my hero who let me stay on his couch when I was first homeless. Yes. I'll never forget that. Randy. So he's a bartender. He's an actor in real life. Pretty good actor. And then there's Leonardo. Leonardo is the Ehor of the group. A very brilliant, cerebral individual. Yes. And he's a director. Everybody on the bartender staff is, somebody who has a real career, a real life, a real job somewhere else besides being a bartender. Leonardo's a director. Another director on staff as a bartender is Virgil. Virgil is from Philadelphia, and he's got a premature head of white hair, and he's very brilliant also. Leonardo and Virgil were two of the smartest men I ever met in New York City. Yes, it's true. And they're both directors, both bartenders working at the Winter Garden Theater. All right. Then the other bartenders there. There was Kenny, the sinister-looking one. He was a playwright in real life. Yes, more about that later. Then there was Jim, the intense one. Right. Then there was Tim, the sincere one. Then there was Brian, who was like the normal guy. And then there was CT, my friend, my partying companion. Yes. He and his friend Kooky Crazy Janie and I would go out and get into all sorts of scrapes. More about that later on. Yes. But, so Leonardo was the Eeyore of the group, as I've mentioned, and very talented, very cerebral. He looked like a Eastern Bloc science professor. You with me? Or he looked like a Vulcan without the pointy ears. That was our friend Leonardo, and he got a hold of a script, and he wanted to produce it. And our sinister-looking bartender, Kenny, who was a playwright, had written this script, a 2-person show, and it was a post-apocalyptic battle, 2 soldiers at the end of the world sort of evening. in the theater. Yes, it was called What About the Oslo Pact? And Leonardo wanted to direct it, and using Randy as there's two soldiers. There's one who's sort of forceful and belligerent, uh, and there's one who's sort of fragile and timid. That was going to be me. And Randy was going to be the forceful fellow. Anyhow, so we started rehearsing this. We started rehearsing Kenny's script, What About the Oslo Pact? And we all worked at the Winter Garden Theater together, so we got off work, at 10:30 or so at night, and we would have a rehearsal starting at 11:30 or midnight and rehearse into the wee hours of the morning. We were young, it was easy. We would rehearse over at Randy's place out in Queens, or we would rehearse at Leonardo's place right over here on Manhattan. And we worked on it for weeks, and Leonardo was a taskmaster. Yes, he's a very demanding director, and we all worked really hard on this. We did. And we're doing it in the living room, and we're doing it, and eventually we're costuming it. You know what I mean? And Leonardo found these soldier costumes, uniforms, right? And with the helmets and the gear and all that stuff. And it took place on a battlefield at the end of the world after everybody was dead. And these two guys, the last two living humans, we're not exactly sure. Oh, it was a real knee slapper of a script. Yes, it was. In spite of the fact that pretty much everybody dies in it, it still was somewhat life-affirming. It was. It was a very good script. So Leonardo found a venue where we were going to produce and perform it. Downtown on Green Street, a bar or a nightclub or a performance venue called 5 and 10 No Exaggeration is the name of the place. I'm not exaggerating. 5 and 10 No Exaggeration down here on Green Street. And it was basically a bar or a nightclub that had a little stage area for the band. And they had some lights, some rock and roll sort of lights that were focused on the little platform area. And that was our set. It took place on the battlefield, picture, you know what I mean, rubble for miles and miles and miles around. Or picture the back room of a bar with giant slits, advertisements, and happy holiday thumbtacked up on the wall. Right. So it was opening night and closing night. We were going to have it one shot at the 5 and 10 No Exaggeration. And so we had a good audience of around 40 or 50 people. Certain friends and certain agents and certain important people were there to see, the young actors and the young playwright and the young director's work. Right. And a bunch of people came out, and even though it was in a bar, even though the lighting was pretty much rock and roll, and even though there was racket going on from the kitchen at all times during the show, the bar did as best as they could to keep things quiet. So there would be a certain amount of, structural integrity for the production and the performance of the play. Right. And as it turned out, the audience loved it. It was a crashing success. It was. Did Leonardo get any directing jobs because of it? Did Kenny, the sinister-looking playwright, get any writing jobs of it? Did Randy, did I get any acting jobs because of it? Well, no. But people liked it, and it was my first living, breathing performance in and on Manhattan. Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right. The other director on the bartender staff was Virgil. Right. Yeah, you tall, imposing fellow with a premature head of white hair. And he was from Philadelphia. And he had a friend from Philadelphia, Jimmy Doc. And Jimmy Doc was a playwright and an actor. And Jimmy Doc had written a script that was based on a true story that happened in Philadelphia a few years earlier. Here's the true story that happened. There was a career criminal, a small time petty criminal in Philadelphia. And he had been in and out of jail and in and out of jail. Well, one day while he was in the courtroom, going to go to jail one more time, he was fed up and he burst and ran from the courtroom, ran down the hall, climbed out on the ledge of a 10th story building where the court was, where the courtroom was on the 10th floor in Philadelphia. And he says, I'm going to jump to my death unless you meet my demands. And they're going, what are your demands? And he wanted, a sandwich, a hoagie. In Philadelphia, that's a submarine sandwich they call a hoagie. A hero is a hoagie. So he wanted a hoagie. And he wanted a pack of cigarettes. So they got him a sandwich and they got him a pack of cigarettes. This is a true story. And so Jimmy Doc wrote this play, a pretty good play called Canned Salmon, about two junkies, who both in dead end sort of circumstances, and one gets out of it and one doesn't. And that was the plot of that play. It was pretty good. And so that was done at the Shuttle Theater over on 6th Street between Avenue B and Avenue C. Okay, you may have heard of Alphabet City in New York. Alphabet City is where we get into into Avenue A, Avenue B, Avenue C, Avenue D. This is a slightly challenging part of town. It's a little bit scary over there. In the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, you got to keep your eyes peeled wherever you go. Right. So going down there at night to see a show was a little bit daunting. Yes. Going down there to rehearse at night was a little bit daunting. Anyhow, the theater was a basement. It was not even a theater. It was a room in a basement. And when you went down the flight of stairs to the basement, it was only attached on one side. So you had to sort of favor the right side of the staircase because the left side was wiggly and it wasn't attached. Oh, it was scary. And you got down there, and it's just a basement with sort of a low ceiling, and there was only room enough for around 30 seats, and then this little tiny stage area, 33 seats, maybe. Right. And this little tiny stage area. And there's 6 or 7 of us in the cast of Canned Salmon. And the lighting was one 75-watt bulb in an aluminum scoop. And it had a cord and a clicker on the end of the cord, the kind that you turn your grandparents turn the light on from across the room. And it wasn't remote controlled. It had a cord attached to it. And so I was running the lights, turning the lights. It was one light. I was running the light. Singular. And we would turn it on, click. I'd have the clicker and I'd stand behind the audience. We had the cord trailed over the audience's 1, 2, 3 rows of people. And I'm standing back there with my clicker, and the scene would start, click, turn on the light, scene's over, click, blackout. And then everybody gets in place for the next scene, click, and scene's over, click, blackout. Now, I was in a scene and everybody else was on stage at the same time. So I had to bring that cord on stage with me. I was playing a judge. I played several roles, and one of the roles that I was playing was a judge in a courtroom scene. The courtroom where the kid got sentenced again and ran and burst from the courtroom. Right. Ran down the hall and got on the window ledge. Well, so I took the cord over the audience's head, and I'm on stage, and click, turned it on. And the scene began. I was the judge and I was in charge of that scene pretty much. And then at the end of the scene, turn the light off again, click. And then I ran around, stood behind it. I was also a newscaster. I had a state-of-the-art bullhorn, right? Ralph Brock. And then I was also a junkie in the park. And Jimmy Doc, who wrote the script, played the number 1 junkie, right? And I played one of his sweethearts in the park, and so I had to kiss Jimmy Doherty. I know. It was fine. it was he was sort of a wannabe alpha male, and it was a little bit weird because we're rehearsing this scene, and we go, okay, this is where we kiss. All right, and the next time we're rehearsing, this is where we kiss, and the director's like, you guys, you're going to have to start kissing in real life because this is part of the play. So Jimmy Doc, never guy of fear, said, all right, here, look, and he grabbed me by the face, and he gave me a big smooch, and he says, all right, now we've done it. Now it's no big deal, right? Right. Okay. So then that's canned salmon. It was about these two junkies, and at one point there was this fantastic scene where they improvised the song "Cool Jerk." Doon doo 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 doon 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 doon. Right, and and it was a joyous moment in the theater where these junkies are all tripping out on heroin, and they're just sort of bopping along, and they make up their own improv a cappella version of the Cool Jerk, yeah, by the Capitals, I believe. Right, if you guys remember Cool Jerk, comment, yes, and like and share and all that stuff. Right. So anyhow, canned salmon opened to a certain amount of acclaim. It was a really good show. It was. And with only 30 people in the house, it didn't take much to fill it up. So we ran for 2 weekends, and then we had to hold it over for 3 more weekends. Because if you put together a good enough show, people are going to want to come and see it. Yes. So we ran for 5 weeks. It was just delightful, and we got more and more relaxed with it. And we even got paid a couple of times. Yes, we knew in the beginning that it was unlikely we were going to get paid, but we did get paid $20. It was second weekend, and right across the street from the Shuttle Theater on 6th Street was a bar. Right across the street, right in the middle of the block, right in the middle of the neighborhood, was a bar, the Oracle Bar. And so we would go across the street and spend that cute little $20 bill as quick as we can and drink it all down. Yes. Jimmy Doc, the star and playwright, had this girlfriend, this stunning girlfriend. She was statuesque and beautiful. Her name was Kitten, Kytn, pronounced kitten. Yes. Stunning beauty. And at one point, because I told you I had to kiss Jimmy Doc, Kitten says, and we're standing around in the bar getting drunk one night, and she says, Harry gets to kiss Jimmy in the play. I'm kind of jealous. And I'm like, are you trying to get me killed? Because Jimmy Doc was a street tough from Philadelphia. He'd just as soon beat me up and jump up and down on my bones. You know what I mean? Until they were all broken into a pulp. As soon as look at his sweetheart, his stunning beauty. Sweetheart, Kitten, I know. Anyhow, nothing became of that. I was crushing on her. Of course I was. But nothing becomes of that. It's fine. I was just more scared of Jimmy Doc wanting to choke me to death. Anyhow, canned salmon ran a successful run for 5 weeks. And we even got reviewed in a newspaper. It was an Italian language newspaper. Yes. And it was a little paragraph in Italian. All this stuff. And then at the end, it had the cast list, and it had Harry Wetzel. Yes, I was the last thing in the in the review. And the and such and such is only reserved for very special actors. Yes. So that was canned salmon. That was two of my off Broadway experiences. Directed in both cases by bartender/directors from the Winter Garden Theater. Oh, and you know, they were really good work. And we did some really excellent guerrilla theater work. I was very proud of What About the Oslo Pact and very proud of canned salmon. Yes. So, meanwhile, back at the Winter Garden, I'll have to tell you about what happens next time. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. I look forward to seeing you next time. All right.